stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as I give the invocation. Almighty God, we acknowledge that you will hold us to account for the way we legislate and administer the affairs of our township and its fine people. We pray for your guidance as we do so. We pray that you would find us protecting the rights of all at all times, that our community and this nation will fulfill all of your purposes. Amen.
Amen.
Clerk Sanders, please take the roll.
Trustee Taylor.
I'm here.
Trustee Reese.
Here.
Trustee Jackson. Here. Trustee King, absent. Clerk Sanders, here. Treasurer Kavanaugh.
Here.
Supervisor McCray.
Here. Quorum is present. Make sure everybody has their mic down so that we can hear, because some of them get stuck up in the air. All right. Next, we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
To the chair,
Trustee Taylor,
I move that we approve tonight's agenda.
Support.
supported by Trustee Jackson. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have some citizen comments. We'll start with Sam Fox, Leisure Services.
Good evening, Honorable Board. For those of you who I have not met yet, I am Sam Fox. I am the Recreation Program Manager in the Leisure Services Office. Tonight, I'd like to share some of our upcoming programs and events with you. We have been busy with a few new ideas that we're excited to bring to residents. One of those is called Happy Hoopers, which is an Easter-themed basketball skills competition. This event will take place on April 5th at Redford Union High School and will feature 2 different age groupings. Another program, new program, is called Yoga with Brit. This program will have 2 different yoga classes to choose from, mama and baby yoga, as well as prenatal yoga, and will focus on establishing a self-care practice in every stage of pregnancy and the postpartum period. We have also partnered with Wayne County Parks for a maple sugaring program. This program will take place this Friday at our community center. Our senior programming is starting to build up as well with trips and activities. Some upcoming senior trips include a guided tour to Michigan Central Station. Tickets for this trip include transportation, a tour ticket, and lunch at Slow's Barbecue. Apart from our programming efforts, we have also been busy continuing to learn in our field. Our staff have had the opportunity to join others in our field at the MParks Conference earlier this month. At this conference, we were informed that we had been awarded the 2025 Play is Essential grant. This grant will allow us to purchase sensory-inclusive supplies that we hope to utilize not only in our new center, but in our current center. Recreation is inclusive, and we want all to feel welcome when they join us for programming and events. We are also excited to announce that George Carderas, our facilities manager, won the new professional award for the State of Michigan Association. This is all I have to share with you this evening. On that note, I'd like to thank the board for their time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Anjanette Davenport Hatter.
Good evening to the Honorable Board. My name is Anjanette Davenport Hatter. I'm the newly appointed chair of the Redford Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. And so I wanted to reintroduce the commission to the community. And so our purpose is to help promote diversity, equity, and inclusion within the township. And our scope of the commission will focus on 3 tenets: education and promotion, ambassadorship, and providing trustee feedback. At this time, we're currently working on education via increased visibility in the township and trustee feedback. I'd like to share what the commission has accomplished to date. We participated in, as a commission, in the Kindness Rally, facilitated a community book reading with Jennifer Miracle Best, Divinely Queer, facilitated the display of pride flags during the Pride Month at board meetings, man booths at the Redford Festival for Pride and Juneteenth, where education was provided to community members. We provided advocacy that led to updated handicap parking signs throughout the township. We advocated, our advocacy led to the unisex bathroom signs at the community center and the marquee, and we are very proud that the township found value in that and are also providing that option at the new rec center. We collaborated with the Leisure Services to bring in and promote Junior Special Olympics, promoted the installment of Autistic Child in area street signs. We facilitated the Black Breastfeeding Week proclamation annually, August 25th through August 31st. Facilitated Pride Month proclamation annually during the month of June, and participated as a commission at the Trick or Trail and National Night Out. We meet every second Tuesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. at the Redford Township Community Center. And for anyone who would like to be placed on an email list for our upcoming events, there is a sign at the sign-in table. And we've also included a double-sided document of education that outlines who does diversity, equity, and inclusion help. And on the other side, it talks about how diversity, equity, and inclusion can benefit our township. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, John Keenan.
Good evening, Honorable Board. I'm a Redford boy, always been a Redford boy. I've achieved everything in my life. I have a little to-do list, not a bucket list. Redford Township is now at the top of my list. 3 minutes is not enough to speak to any substance with regard to the proposed budget. So I took a couple hours to look at it this morning, prepared a 3-page summary for your benefit, and encloses that 3-page summary. So I think just pass it off to you. And this is, since it's a public hearing, we'll have the benefit of, how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
One for you. Now leave one for anyone who would like to read it. There are actually just some comments and actually some suggestions. Nothing else.
Okay.
I hope you find them helpful.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Next, Blake Milkey. And I'm saying the last name incorrect, so when you get up there, say it so that everybody knows that
Sure.
it's the right way and not my way. Okay.
Let me grab this from you.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Good evening, Honorable Board. My name is Blake Mikas. I am coming here because I'm not really sure where else to go. I moved to Redford a little while ago after having been an investor here for about 10 years. I'm living over in 5 Points in a house that used to be a rental property. And even though that I'm living there, I've been receiving tickets from the building department. And they've not really responded to my requests or phone calls or anything like that to get the matter resolved. And it's now to the point where I had a informal hearing at court, and I've brought documentation, testified that this is my house, I'm living there, so on and so forth. There's nothing wrong with the house. It's been in great shape. I've had a certificate of compliance since I started renting it out, and I'm looking for some assistance and some guidance as to how to get this corrected. Otherwise, I've got another court hearing, and I've got to start escalating things and hiring an attorney and all sort of things like that. And it doesn't really feel like that's something I should do just as proof that or do something for my own house.
Okay.
So I'm looking for some feedback or guidance as to what I can do with that.
Okay, well, so just so everybody knows, this is a opportunity for you to speak, and we listen. We don't have discussion.
Sure.
Everybody's heard what your concern is, and we have department heads here as well. and we will see what we can do to address whatever's going on for you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our citizen comments, so we're going to move into the public hearing. We need a motion to go into the public hearing.
To the chair,
Trustee Jackson,
I move that we go into a public hearing about the proposed property tax millage levy.
Support.
supported by Treasurer Kavanaugh. Any discussion? We have to have a roll call on that. Roll call vote.
Trustee Reed,
Yes.
trustee King, absent. Trustee Taylor,
Yes.
trustee Jackson. Yes. Treasurer Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Clerk Sanders, yes. Supervisor McCray.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Director Byron?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good evening, Honorable Board. Good evening, residents of Redford Township. Tonight, this public hearing is being held in accordance with the Uniform Budgeting Act, which requires that before the Township Board can adopt its annual General Appropriations Act, there must be a public hearing on the proposed tax millage levy that will be used to support the general fund operations of that community. Redford is a little unique in that we have an April 1st fiscal year, and so we have to adopt our budget sometime before March 31st, which means that we have to have this hearing sometime before March 31st. However, we don't have to actually set the final tax millages until September, because these are the millages that will be showing on your December tax statements. And that's important for us because that means that things could change between now and then, and things may likely change. As we all know right now, no one really knows what's going to happen with the economy or funding as it is. And these are a little bit of uncertain times, and so my crystal ball at the moment is not giving me a clear picture of what's going to happen, but this is the best forecast that I'm able to provide at this time. So first I want to talk a little bit about our history of our property taxes and assessments. This is an 11-year look back at all of the various property tax millages that we have in Redford Township, showing the name, when it was first elected by the people of Redford Township, how many mills, and how long it is in effect for. You can see that back in 2015, our total millage rate was 25.7058 mills. Now, I know that there's often conversation that happens online talking about our total millage rate, and you may be thinking, isn't our total millage rate like 58 or 60 mills? And it is when you include the county millages and the school millages and the jail millage and the DIA and the zoo. But the portion that is Redford Townships of that number in 2015 was 25.7 mills. My proposal for 2025 is 24.7. This is a 0.15 mil increase from 2024. So that's an increase of 15 cents per $1,000 of taxable value on your home. And that is coming from two different things. First, I am projecting that at this time, based on the information and the funding levels that we have been given, that we will need to increase the SAD by 0.25 mils. That's 0.25 mils. So that's increasing from 7.35 to 7.6. However, I am predicting that we will be able to lower the street lighting millage from 1.25 mils to 1.15, which is why the net increase is 0.15. It's never great when we're in a situation that we have to potentially increase the tax levy, and I certainly can appreciate that point. I do want to point out that even though we are proposing to move the SAD to 7.6, we're nowhere near the historical high for this levy. We reached the high for this levy in the years 2020 through 2022 when it was at 8.15, and even in 2019 it was at 7.9. I don't think that this is indicative of any real change in our funding, the fact that we're having to increase it. It's really more that last year we talked about the potential need to increase it as well. And some of that is because we have had to find the fine line between budgeting for vacancies that we have in departments and making sure that those are funded versus what's the realistic assumption of how many positions we can fill. Both the police and the fire chiefs have had success, some more than others, in filling those vacancies. And so we're starting to see staffing numbers come back up to a more, closer to full staffing, which is really what's driving this. But I think that's a good thing. And eventually it will kind of work itself out because there are other elements of revenue that potentially come when we are fully staffed. And so we don't have those yet because we're not fully staffed, and when we are fully staffed, we might see it go back down again, right? It's just we're kind of in that interesting middle point right now when it comes to that. All of our other millage rates at this point I'm projecting will remain the same. So the only two that I'm seeing that there will be a change from 2024 to 2025 is the SAD and the street lighting millage. I always think it's important that we look back to understand how our property taxes and our assessments relate today to where we were at our peak taxable value year of 2007. So what I'm referring to here, of course, is before the major housing crash in 2008. So when property tax values were at their highest levels and were at their most equitable levels between all of the homes in the community. At that time, in 2007, in order to provide the operations that we are providing today, we only needed 14.5 mills. But as you could see from the 2015 look back, ever since the housing crash of 2008, when we saw taxable values kind of fall off a cliff at that point, we have been in this scenario where we've needed around 25 mills in order to properly operate as a community. And that is a direct impact of the combination of Headley and Proposal A of 1994. And there's a lot of conversation that's going on right now about what's happening and the disparity that exists for our homeowners for two people who live side by side. I was speaking to a member of the Board of Review today when she was leaving, and she was saying that most of the people who are coming in are people whose homes have become uncapped because there was a transfer of ownership in 2024. And she was saying that one of them, for example, has a tax bill this year of $11,000. That is an absolutely insane number, and I understand that that is a really crazy number. But what Proposal A and Headley have done for Redford is we have people where one person is paying $11,000 and the next person is paying $2,000, and they may have identical homes. And that is a direct impact of the after effects of the 2008 housing crash with the unintended side effects of Proposal A and Headley. This is a huge problem for our community, and that it drives people out from wanting to come to Redford Township because when they do, they're going to get hit with this massive tax bill. The cost of a police officer, the cost to provide services, the cost of a firefighter, the cost to maintain roads, no matter where you live, is going to be approximately the same. And I think that if we were able to be in a situation where our millage rates were closer down to this 14.5 number, we wouldn't be hearing a lot of the commentary that we see right now in the public sphere about why are our property taxes so high. This is something that if you have any influence with our legislators in Lansing, as always, I would encourage you to try to see if they will do something to address this problem, because it is causing real issues for us in Redford Township. How reliant as a result of this are we on the SAD? Public safety overall in our upcoming budget, it requires $30 million to operate, and that's really split between three different areas. A third of it approximately is coming from general operations, so the charter millage. A third of it is coming from the dedicated public safety operating millages, so that would be the SAD and the other operating millage. And a third of it is going to cover the pension and OPEB costs for police and fire, otherwise known as Act 345. So those are split pretty evenly between the three. You will see that between fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 26, the proportion going to general operations has gone up from 30 to 33%. That's a good thing in the sense that is reducing reliance on that SAD. However, we still need $10 million in total from the SAD in order to provide police and fire operations in Redford Township. So we are absolutely in a scenario where that millage for us is critical for the success of our budget. Back in 2007, again, just to kind of show the comparison specifically to police and fire operations, in 2007, again, when taxable values were at their highest and we had the most equity between all homes, we only needed about 3 mills, where today we need 9 mills in order to provide those same level of services. To speak a little bit about the general fund overall, since that's what this money is going to, you will see that our total revenue for 25-26 is projected to be right at $35.2 million. The budget for last year was $34.4. Now, you may be looking back at the first two columns, which show 47.3 and 54.6, and are going, what happened to our budget? What happened is two different things. The first is those years had multiple millions of dollars of ARPA money in them, and so ARPA is now expired, and so there's no ARPA money in the numbers. The other thing is that starting in fiscal year 25, the year that we're wrapping up right now, we did move the police and fire SAD millage to its own fund for tracking purposes, so it's no longer showing here in the general fund. So the actual proportion is actually very much the same. It just looks a little drastic right now because of those two things, but if you were to add back in the SAD numbers to these and subtract out the ARPA money from the other years, you would see that they look almost identical. If you go back to the years prior to ARPA, our general fund budget was right around the $32 to $33 million range. So the fact that 4 or 5 years later we're at 35, given the rates of inflation, that's right where we should be. How are our funds, where do our revenues come from within the general fund? 51% of our budget for fiscal year 26 is coming from property taxes. 26% is coming from state revenues. We get 3% from licenses, permits, and charges, 5% from fines and forfeits, 3% from investment income, thank you, Treasurer Kavanaugh, 12% just kind of from other, and we don't have any projected federal revenues for the general fund in this upcoming budget, which is important at the moment because I've been asked several times as to whether or not we have any staff who are being impacted by funding changes coming out of Washington. While that is a matter of great concern, I know for our community development director, it won't impact the general fund budget. Looking at our revenues, that's just the actual numbers. This was all in your packet. I just wanted to hear in case people wanted to see it. Looking at our expenditures, we spend, for fiscal year 2026, 78% of our budget is spent on personnel. That number has ranged from 76 to 79 in the 7 years that I've been the finance director for the township. So that's a very consistent number at 78%. And then the majority of the rest of our expenses go to providing the services that we do, whether that's elections or assessing or the various functions of the government, and then a little bit for supplies and a little bit for capital. Most capital expenses are either in the SAD fund or they're in the enterprise funds like water and sewer, so they would show up separately. They're not in the general fund. We don't use the general fund for that purpose. And then again, kind of looking at their overall numbers, which have not really changed at all, again, for the same reason. That's all I have for the presentation. At this time, I'll take any questions regarding the proposed tax levy.
Questions from the board?
To the chair,
Trustee Jackson?
regarding that significant increase when somebody buys a new house, do we have to have state legislation to address that? Is there something that we can do as a township board to provide some kind of relief for that, since it is a deterrent to people moving here?
Unfortunately, I think the answer to that is no, because both pieces of legislation that are controlling this were state statutes. Proposal A was a public referendum in 1994. In Headley, back in the 1970s, I don't remember if there was a public vote or a public act, but either way, they were both enacted by the state. So the only thing that we could potentially do here would be to potentially subsidize someone's taxes, but where would we get the money to do that, right?
But-
Yeah.
If we didn't have that income with the previous owner, it's additional income with the new owner. So you're saying I wouldn't say subsidize it. I would say basically, is there something we could do to level that off?
Well, in that scenario, though, then what you'd be running into is so the inflation multiplier for fiscal year '26, so for the upcoming winter tax bills that was noticed in everybody's assessments that they just received for this year is 3.1%, which means that as a whole chunk, if you left all of the millages exactly the same, we should see a 3.1% increase in the amount of money collected from last year to this year, right? So some of that's coming from that uncapping. So if we wanted to reduce that, we would get less than 3.1% of an increase, which means now we're not collecting enough to keep up with inflation and the other expenses that are increasing.
Okay.
Other questions from the board? Questions from the public? If you have a question, please come to the mic and give your name and address, what your question is. This is your opportunity.
You know, I got a statement for you.
Well, do it at the mic.
Okay, you know, with respect to the
Name and
Headley thing, I
address.
think,
Mr. Keen,
Director.
Name and address.
I'm sorry?
Name and address for the record.
Oh, it's my name, John Keenan, 2550 5 Mile, Redford, Michigan.
Okay.
Anyway, Director Monarch has done an excellent job here with the presentation, and I think that it's wonderful. However, Headley was passed back in the 70s because of the rapid increase in homes and the cost for homes for older people. And so actually there was so my understanding of the legislative history, it was designed to keep people in their homes who were elderly because they were losing the homes because they couldn't pay the tax. Now the relationship here in town is different because if you look at the demographics, you see that there are less older people. Of course, some of them are sitting on the board right now, and more younger people. But that was the legislative history behind Headley. And that's all I need to say, and just as a point of clarification.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public? Any other questions from the public? Hearing no other questions, motion to close the hearing would be in order.
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Reese,
I move to close the public hearing.
Support.
supported by Clerk Sanders. Roll call vote, please.
Yes. Treasurer Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Trustee Jackson.
Yes.
Trustee Reese.
Yes.
Clerk Sanders, yes. Trustee King, absent. Trustee Taylor.
Yes.
Supervisor McCray.
Yes, motion carries. Director Bonerack, thank you for a well-put-together presentation. It's clear and easy to see. The numbers, we wish they were different, some of them, but they are what they are, and we'll keep working on it.
Thank you.
Next is the consent agenda. Treasurer Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Supervisor McCray. I move to approve the consent agenda items as follows. The minutes of the study session of February 25th of 2025. The minutes of the regular meeting of February 25th of 2025. The warrant list of bills as of March 4th of 2025 in the amount of $1,531,751.50. The third quarter investment earnings report from October 1st of 2024 through December 31st of 2024 on file for audit. Advertisement for bids, EPS, professional engineering planning services, capital improvement and asset management plan beginning March 13th of 2025 through April 8th of 2025. Advertisement for bids, DPS, professional planning services, zoning ordinance update beginning March 13th of 2025 through April 8th of 2025.
Support.
Supported by Trustee Taylor. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business number 1, Director Bonner.
Thank you, Supervisor McCray. Before you this evening is the resolution to adopt the annual General Appropriations Act along with Schedules A, B, and C. So the public hearing that we just held was in relation to this act, which is referenced in Section 4. This act also enumerates who's responsible for what, essentially, when it comes to the administration of the budget. It includes, for example, the fact that I am obligated to present you quarterly fiscal reports on what's happening with the budget, which is part of the reason why you hear from me so often. And this has been posted on the website for a couple of weeks and was published in newspapers of record promoting that it would be adopted this evening. Other than that, there are no changes to it from what was presented to you and during the study sessions earlier this year.
Okay, questions from the board? Questions from the board? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
To the chair,
Trustee Reese.
I move approval of the resolution to adopt fiscal year 2025 through 2026 Charter Township of Redford General Appropriations Act, along with Schedules A, B, and C.
Support.
Supported. Okay, so the motion is for the approval of the resolution to adopt the fiscal year 2025-2026 Charter Township of Redford General Appropriations Act, along with Schedule A, B, and C. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Trustee Jackson.
Yes.
Trustee King, absent. Trustee Taylor.
Yes.
Clerk Sanders, yes. Treasurer Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Trustee Reese.
Yes.
Supervisor McCray.
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you, Adam.
Yes,
Great
Thank
job.
you.
indeed.
Thank you. Glad that's done.
Director Bonner, you're still on. Don't get your rest yet.
The next thing before you is a project that we have been working on for quite some time, which is a project to replace and change providers for all of our telephones, our phone system within the township. Yes, so it was about 10 years ago that we moved to a company called ClearRate, and while for many years they provided wonderful service, they've had changes in leadership and changes in structure, and it just hasn't been what it used to be. So last summer, we, with your permission, we hired consultants to work with us on this from a company called Abilita, and they have been wonderful to work with. And then a whole group of us has been reviewing all of our phone lines and looking at what services we needed, and we put out an RFP, and we held interviews with phone companies, and all that said and done, it is our recommendation that we award a 36-month agreement to Call Harbor to provide our services. And we really, really liked them a lot in the interview. And one of the things that I think is really important is that they're very hands-on, or they're willing to be hands-on. And due to the size of our township, we need that sometimes from our vendors, right? Because we don't necessarily have the staffing. We don't have the staffing to have somebody here that's dedicated to go fix all the phone problems. So we need to be able to work with a vendor who's willing to come in and do that with us. And that's something that I think they will provide and will work out really, really great. So from a budgetary perspective, I know this is a little bit of an unusual motion that I'm not necessarily telling you where it's being paid for from, because it's already budgeted within the budget, and this is actually cheaper than what's already in the budget, so it's already there. So I just need essentially permission to award the contract because I already have a funding source.
Questions from the board? All I can say is that I'm listening to department heads, and Adam's listened to all of them as well, that this phone system that we have is not good at all. We hear it sometimes from residents and how they get stuck doing certain things, and calls are dropped off. They get stuck in this endless loop. I think this is a positive thing to do, and we're saving money.
Win-win.
And there's been a lot of research done by Adam and some others to come up with an acceptable persons and the right price. So, any other questions from the board? What's the pleasure of the board?
To the chair.
Yes, question?
I move for the approval of Call Harbor Service Agreement proposal for 36 months with estimated recurring charges of $4,820.89 per month and an estimated one-time equipment purchase of $17,520 and authorize the Central Operations Director, Adam Bonarek, to sign the agreement.
Support.
Supported by Treasurer Kavanaugh. Motion on the floor is the approval of the Call Harbor Service Agreement proposal for 36 months with an estimated recurring charge of $4,820.89 a month and an estimated one-time equipment purchase of $17,520 and authorize Central Operations Director Adam Bonarack to sign the agreement. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Trustee King, absent. Trustee Reese.
Yes.
Trustee Taylor.
Yes.
Treasurer Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Trustee Jackson.
Yes.
Clerk Sanders, yes. Supervisor McCray.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. They should be in within 45 to 60 days.
Home baby, can't wait. We're excited.
Express mail.
Chief Mansfield, you are up.
Trying to speed this along, I bet people have celebrations they'd like to get. Good evening, Honorable Board.
Oh, my.
I am coming before you today. First is you have a memo requesting approval of a quote to replace the jail toilets over at my police department. I know this is not exciting, yet this is something that needs to be addressed so that we can provide some basic services to people that we have in custody. Unfortunately, this is an urgent matter. While I know that I've been working with Director Bonarack to put this into the budget in the future, I have since had both my holding and my detox cells go down, as well as one individual cell. For those of you that are not familiar, utilizing all of my cells, I can hold 30 people, and that just eliminated 21 of those spots. So hopefully I don't have those kinds of problems. What I am requesting is the approval of a quote from Guardian Plumbing and Heating. They currently do the majority of my major plumbing work over at the police department. I did reach out to one of the other plumbers that we use for some of our smaller tasks over there in an effort to get some quick numbers for you guys to bring before you. They just told me flat out they don't have the manpower and they can't even get a vendor to give them a quote on this size of a project. Part of the cost is due to the fact that our plumbing hasn't been touched since this building was erected, if you will. And part of the issues that we're going to have is we know they're going to have to run some new water lines while they're putting in these new toilet combos. So this is why I'm asking to do this without an RFP, unfortunately, and for expediency. So what I'm asking for is the approval of a quote for $124,000 from Guardian Plumbing and Heating for the purchase and installation of 12 jail straight stainless steel prison combo units, 2 offset jail cell stainless steel prison combo units, and 14 pneumatic control valves for the water lines, and that's the plumbing aspect that we're talking about that we need. And these funds are going to come from our SAD Equipment Capital Fund. And I've run this by Director Bonarack, and he approves at some point. The money man says I'm okay.
Questions from the board?
To the chair.
Treasurer Kavanaugh.
Just out of curiosity, there is no kind of issue that we will run into that we are approving such a large sum without an RFP?
No. So the way our purchasing policy, that's the ordinance that you've approved reads, is that the board always has the option to forego the RFP process if the board feels there's a valid reason to do so. So the recommendation here is that because of urgency and because it is a vendor that we have worked with before, that in this instance, we would be okay to do that.
Okay, I just wanted to make everything clear. Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the board?
To the chair.
Trustee Reese.
Chief, I'm just curious, obviously, we're moving quick and we can't put out for quotes. Are there any municipalities around us that could give like a smell test on the price about whether this is in line with what they would expect?
To be perfectly honest, I don't know of any municipalities off the top of my head that's had to install every single
Yeah.
toilet within their jail. I wouldn't even
Know where to ask?
know where to ask.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know of anybody outside the county who's actually built a jail, and that's a far different, size of a project in the recent past.
I will say, Trustee Reeves, related to that, when Chief Mansfield and I were first discussing this, back before we realized it was going to be an urgent project, she actually thought the cost estimate would be quite a bit higher.
Yeah,
So
he was
that's a
very
good
happy
thing.
with this number, so I'm hoping that they don't find any problems more than what I expect here.
I think I also just wanted to ask a question with a pun. I said it's a sniff test, and I think there's sense.
I'm trying to speed this along, sir.
The smell is a much larger than a sniff, a smell, okay?
Can't escape.
I assure you, my jails smell right now. If you want to go that soon.
That's why I add cruelty to the.
Yeah, but good job. Yeah. Any other questions from the board? What's the pleasure of the board?
To the chair,
Trustee Taylor.
I move that we approve the quote of $124,000 from Guardian Plumbing and Heating Incorporation for the purchase and installation of 12 jail cell straight stainless steel prison combo units, 2 offset jail cell stainless steel units, and 14 pneumatic control valves for the water lines to feed the new combo units. Funding for this purchase will be from the SAD Equipment Capital Fund.
Support.
Support by Trustee Jackson. The motion on the floor is approval of the quote of $124,000 for Guardian Plumbing Heating Incorporated for the purchase of steel units and installation of 12 jail cell straight stainless steel prison combo units of 2 of a set of cell stainless steel units and 14 pneumatic control valves for the water lines to feed the new combo units. Funding for this purchase will be from the SAD Equipment Capital Fund. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Clerk Sanders, yes. Trustee Jackson?
Yes.
Trustee Taylor?
Yes.
Trustee King, absent. Treasurer Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Trustee Reese?
Yes.
Supervisor McCray?
Yes, motion carries. Chief, you're up again.
I know, and last one, so I'm going to try and move this along. My next item is a resolution about dog license prices. The board may know that I've been working with Treasurer Kavanaugh and taking over a lot of these different ACO and dog issues that are going on. And one of the things that I spoke with Officer Polovich on, and that I believe to be a major concern, is the amount of the unneutered and unspayed dogs, so what we consider to be unaltered, and the increasing amount of unwanted animal population that's impacting us in multiple ways around this township. So with that in mind, I looked at some surrounding area communities and their dog licensing and how they chose to adopt their prices. And what I am asking for is the adoption of a resolution that makes the price of our dog licenses for altered, namely spay or neutered pets, to be only $10 for the year. So that's actually lowering the price from the 15 that I'm looking at. Now, if your dog is unaltered, namely it's not fixed, we're looking at it being $20. So a little upwards there, but this is for the overall benefit. And the surrounding communities all tend to do something similar. One of the things that we were looking at in relation to this is our dog licenses have always come up in June. And it's a kind of a weird time of the year, and I'm going to be working moving forward with our attorneys to change our calendar type year for when we're doing licensing to January through December versus this June aspect. And the other thing that will do for our residents is give them an additional 6 months to get their dog spayed or neutered if that's the option that they wish to take and have that opportunity. We will still be selling licenses through the treasurer's office beginning in June, but it will be a 2026 license. So technically, our residents will be getting an additional 6 months this year as we go to get this put in place. And you'll see me before the board in the upcoming couple of months here in order to get that done. So Supervisor, would you like me to read this resolution, or?
Well, I don't think you need to read the resolution unless you really
Perfect.
want to.
I don't need to, I told you what it is.
Because I think that
It's pretty simple.
Pretty cut and dry. I think that it's.
Cut and dry.
Hey, I'm trying. I'm
I'm
trying.
not the one up here making snippets.
Okay. All right. That's better than what the.
You be.
Yeah, okay. I think it's pretty. A little bit on the nose. A little bit on the nose, right, yeah. But I think it's very understandable. I have to say that I think this is a great idea, because that way if dogs get out of the yards, they don't help to repopulate and have more dogs wandering around the streets.
And if I may, one more
Yes,
quick
yes,
thing about it
yes.
is, while we are not doing dog days on site this year, we have secured a partnership that still is with Tail Waggers for the low income or low cost vaccines. And we're also working to meet with different veterinarians within the township to see if they're interested in partnering with us to also offer that opportunity for our residents to get the low cost vaccines. So, sorry about that.
Don't have to be sorry. It's good information.
I missed it.
So, any questions from the board?
To the chair.
Come on. I knew it was coming.
Treasurer Kavanaugh.
What do you got?
No, actually, this is more of a statement than a question. I do appreciate everything that you're doing. I think the comparing of the prices with other communities has been excellent. I'm sorry that the dog days are leaving, but I think this is now moving forward, that it's going to be year-long, and that's going to help a lot of people being able to afford it throughout the year as opposed to just that 1 month. So, and just so the public knows that we will be open on 2 Saturdays of June, just to try to get people acclimated to the new program. But I do appreciate everything that you and the ACO are doing in order to promote this and get this moving forward. Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Trustee Jackson.
Since this is an all-year program, how would you incur a late fee?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. How would I what?
If the program goes all year, it's a 12-month program, how would anybody incur a late fee?
When we get the calendar month changed, I couldn't put that in writing because it hasn't been changed yet. So what will then be happening is, with the assumption that it will pass, that we will change it from January through December, that means they will have to have their license by January 1. We would most likely have a 30-day grace period till the end of January before Officer Polovich will start writing tickets
Okay.
for not having a license. But until I'm able to get all of that language settled with the attorneys and in front of you in order to approve that, I just had to write it that way.
So basically, the all year is just if you get a new dog.
Correct, and it's also one of the, yes, but we don't have to rush around and get it right away, right now, in only that month.
Okay.
Other questions from the board? Other jokes from the board?
Come on, I'm a good target.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Wait,
Oh, here's another question.
Oh, go
to
ahead.
the chair. Okay.
Treasurer Kavanaugh.
I move to approve of the resolution to change the dog license prices to $10 per altered, spayed, neutered dog, $20 per unaltered dog, and a $10 late fee per dog in accordance with the Redford Township Code of Ordinances, Section 18-53.
Support.
Supported by Trustee Jackson. The motion is for approval of the resolution to change the dog license prices to $10 per altered, spaded, or neutered dog, $20 per unaltered dog, and $10 late fee per dog in accordance with the Redford Code of Ordinance, Section 18-53. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Trustee Taylor?
Yes.
Trustee Reese?
Yes.
Trustee Jackson?
Yes.
Trustee King, absent. Clerk Sanders, yes. Treasurer Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Supervisor McCray?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you,
Thank
Chief.
you, guys.
Announcements from the board.
To the chair.
Trustee Taylor.
I would like to take this moment, if I may, to acknowledge two very special women who have just completed another trip around the sun by wishing a very happy birthday to our very own Jacqueline Harper and our very own Lily Kavanaugh. Should we sing happy birthday?
I think if we're gonna sing happy birthday, I'd like Jacqueline to come up, please stand here, so Lily's not the only one. Lily's not the only one I can.
Come on.
There's strength in numbers.
Oh, dear, yeah.
Well, you can stand in front of her or behind her, come up here if you'd like. Whichever.
Lead us in song.
Do it now while you got the chance.
Oh, boy.
Okay, yeah,
And there's brownies.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jacqueline Lily. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much. I will not divulge how old
Well,
we are.
yeah. I like how it's a we.
Yeah.
Any other announcements from the board?
Thank you.
To the chair.
Trustee Sanders, Clerk Sanders, I'm sorry. Hey, it was the end of the day. You guys gotta be birthdays. Anyway,
No worries. I just want to reiterate again, coming March 19th, this Wednesday, the township will be holding the Secretary of State SOS Mobile at the community center. The appointments are filling up, so please feel free to reach out to Miss Sydney down at the community center. She'll be more than happy to assist you with scheduling the service. Again, you can renew your driver's license, your tabs, anything, and you can do it within a year. You can also establish the real ID or also with the enhanced at that time. So again, just wanted to make that aware, that announcement to the residents. That's it.
To the chair.
Commissioner Kavanaugh.
I just remembered. I just wanted to let everybody know that please go to a lot of your state representatives, as far as Representative Young, Senator Kavanaugh, to their community conversations. They will let you know how the trickle down from the federal funding being stopped as to what they're trying to do. They are trying to see what rainy day funds they can get their hands on in order to not stop a lot of these funding issues for veterans or for other individuals. So please go to their conversations, take some time. They give you updates, they tell you what they're working on, and that is an extremely important thing to do since we only get a bombardment of the news. So please do that. Thank you.
Yes. Anything else from the board? I only have a couple things. One is the State of the Township is going to be on the 20th of this month at 11 o'clock at Thurston Administrative Building in the Brian Galdis Innovation Center. If you haven't got your tickets yet, there are a few tickets still remaining and available, so I encourage you to get that. It's always a great meal and an opportunity for you to hear about what's going on in all the departments here in the township in a joyful manner. So please plan on attending. And for all my fellow Irishmen out there, and for those that are Irish only on St. Patrick's Day, which we allow, I want to say happy St. Patrick's Day, and if you are out celebrating, please celebrate safe and enjoy the day. But
Designated drivers.
and the chief says she'll be everybody's designated driver, so we want to thank her for volunteering. And on her own time as well, so that's even better. So we do thank her. So please enjoy the warm weather that's coming up and the holidays coming up, and see if you can get down to the State of the Township. So you know the business before the board, this meeting is adjourned. Oh, let's see. What do I gotta get?